Welcome to Voices of Tech and Litigation with your host, Ray Beken. This podcast will broaden your knowledge in the use of technology in business and our everyday world. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, chorusconsulting.net. Now here's the host of Voices of Tech and Litigation, Ray Beken.
Hey, Brian, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well, bud. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, everybody. I got a fun guest today. Brian McHughs. He is the founder and CEO of Indexed.io. Chorus Consulting and Indexed.io have been software and service partners for a number of years now. And so I've got a pretty good familiarity with Brian and his product and what he does. And he's very knowledgeable in our industry. So we're going to talk quite a bit today about what's going on in the industry and things like that. So with that, I'm going to let Brian introduce himself, tell a little bit about Indexed.io and what he's got going on. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Again, thanks for having me. Brian McHughs, founder and CEO of Indexed.io. Indexed.io is a eDiscovery platform. So we're going to be able to process, ingest electronic discovery data, provide search tools, filter tools, machine learning, AI overlay technologies, basically to get you from raw electronic data all the way through your production. So we were founded in 2012. We've been around quite a while. Thousands of attorneys and law firms utilize the platform, and like I said, thanks for having us on again.
Yeah, we're gonna get into modern data types in a minute, but a little bit of a background. You and I have both been in the industry a pretty good while. You know, I was in the industry back when I was pushing a dolly in boxes and sweating downtown. So modern data types now, the definition of that changes as time moves forward, right? So talk a little bit about the modern data types in eDiscovery today, mobile phones, collaboration tools, and things like that, and how you've concentrated your tool towards that.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. There was one time in our careers, right, where scanning paper was a modern data type. To have those images of paper, that was modern. That was a while ago, but that was the point. Where we're at now, things have evolved to cell phone data, text, voicemails, video and media that's captured with that device, location device within, where's that device been? And then you have collaborative tools like Teams and Slack that have so many different outlets and channels and users bases that are mixing data and information and conversations together. It's a real challenge to pull those data types, and we call them modern data types, mainly because we're really discovering that stuff now. Everyone kind of buried their head for a long time because they just didn't know what to do with it. Now there's tools and workflows, and Chorus and Indexed.io work several times through these scenarios. Where now we can take that data, give the law firm or attorneys access to it, practical access to it, meaning they can look at it and read it and see it, how it, looks on a phone. And now it can be leveraged in their cases. And, it's going to continue as more platforms come out. I mean, Zendesk, for instance, is a support ticketing system. It's not meant to be viewed outside of the Zendesk platform, right? It's meant to be a database that you can leverage support tickets or help tickets and replies, and is it closed or open, is it active, inactive? But being able to take that data out, format it in a way that's reviewable by a layman's, not a DBA, not a technical person, but someone who can search it and look at it and understand what they're seeing, and then ultimately output that for their legal case. Those I think are the challenges that our industry is seeing right now with what I call modern data types. So
yeah. I mean, when I first started encountering the need to review text messages, chat rooms, that type of data, it was, here's a spreadsheet, and then good luck figuring out who was talking to who,
Oh,
what, when, and where, and figuring those things out. You needed to have a specialist go through every line and put it together. So how have you tried to solve that?
Yeah, we've done it by mimicking what the data looks like on the source, meaning like phone messages have bubbles back and forth. Voicemails look and are structured like you would see them on a phone, or Slack and Teams messages look, the back and forth looks very similar to the platform itself. The reason we do that is, one, there's a familiarity. We all have phone. We all know how text works. When you see that mimicked, you understand how to leverage the data and how to get through it and what you're looking at. Oh, this person's talking to this group and this group's replying and this person sent the picture and they put a heart emoji on it. We understand that. To your point, when you're looking at an Excel file, it is very difficult to follow that conversation or to follow that data from point to point to point, because it's just not natural. You don't review text messages yourself in a spreadsheet. And that's what we've done, Ray. We've tried to mimic the source platform as much as we can, for various reasons. I mean, think of it like someone on the stand. You go up in front of them, you say, hey, and you show a spreadsheet. Does this look familiar to you? No, it won't look familiar to them, because they don't look at their stuff in a spreadsheet. And then they have to be explained, well, this is a conversation between you and someone else, and this date and time and blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, I'll take your word for it. Whereas if you pop up that same chat communication and it's bubbles back and forth, and they're blue bubbles and green bubbles, just like they would be on a phone, and all the little emojis and all that stuff. And does this look familiar? Yeah, actually, I recall that conversation, right? That's going to be a visual recall. That's what we put into the tool, and that's what I think the industry needs, not just for the review or the review element of it and getting through it, but also the output, putting it in front of a witness, using it in your case. We've just seen it to be more admissible, I would say, for lack of a better term, meaning everyone can quickly acknowledge the validity of it. Whereas when you get these spreadsheets and things like that, then there's a long convoluted, you got to have exports that verify it, and then, all those fun things. So
yeah, makes perfect sense. Okay, we're talking about new data types and new technology and reviewing of it. Well, brings you to what's the new buzzword out there, the whole AI, going on in the world right now. Man, if you were a prognosticator, how is AI going to change the industry?
Oh man, it's already started. One thing I'll mention is AI's been in our industry for a bit. We don't really see it as AI, but machine learning and natural language processing are AI technologies, meaning, like in our system, for instance, a reviewer tags an item privilege. The system can be configured to go find other items like that item and tag them as potentially privileged. That's an AI workflow that exists today. And it's existed for a while, and it's been burned in and tested and what have you. Natural language processing is analyzing text and pulling out names and places and organizations. Again, we have that technology that's been cooked in for a while. What I think is really going to change is the buzzword, the generative AI. So generative AI is a bit more unique in that it is a combination of a bunch of AI technologies that summarize, that compare it for pattern recognition on huge, large language models, LLMs. That's probably the other word that people are hearing, large language models. What those models are is really a base for this technology to compare to. And in our industry, what we're going to see is summary. Great. Summarize this document or this collection of documents or everything from this custodian. That's super helpful for review because you're going to get your hands wrapped around it. But it's also going to do generative AI in that pattern recognition of, hey, Ray, I noticed that you queried this and you filtered this way and you did this and this and this. I recognize that. And you know what else you should do? You should also query this other thing, and you should query, filter this way. It's going to proactively help these legal teams get through the workflow. That's what AI really should be leveraging is these efficiencies in this workflow, because we have projects that are terabytes and terabytes of data. It really isn't practical for a team to kind of manually get through that. You can keyword search, and you can say, I know everything prior to a data is irrelevant. That's great. Definitely keep doing that. But what you need is this technology to say, here's what you don't know, right? Here's some questions you should be asking based on the questions you've already asked. And I think that's really going to change the industry. And we're already beta testing some of these. We're excited about the first part of 2025 because we're going to be able to roll out some of this stuff. But I think it's the generative part that's really going to change our industry.
Yeah, those terabytes and terabytes of data cases.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got one we're working on together right now, 25, 27 terabytes, something like that. I mean,
it's huge. And
without technology, you're done.
That's right. And we leverage the machine learning and the natural language processing and the continuous active learning. We leveraged that on that particular project, and it worked great. What I'm excited to see is the next step, which is when we start suggesting to that review team, hey, we think this is privileged because of, you asked this question or this question or this question. Based on that, this matches that pattern. And that's what AI is doing in the background. It's doing pattern recognition. It's just doing it on a really, really big scale and really, really fast.
Right.
And the exciting part is it finds patterns we don't see. Like, I don't know if you've played around with AI, around, like ChatGPT or any of them. It really is magical. Like, you see it and you're kind of like blown away. I've had it summarize some contracts for us. We're looking at a data center and another, an international data center that we're going to be, putting some equipment in. And I had it summarize the contract. It was phenomenal. Who the parties are, what the overall commitment value is, the deadlines, minimum date, cancellation dates, all that was just spit out to me. And within minutes, I could get a good grasp of like, is this something I want to move forward with or not? We're going to pull that same thing in with legal review. And now, is it responsive? Is it privileged? Is this related to my case at all? Is it relevant? And if it is, what gauge of relevancy? That's going to be really fun. That's why when we get into these things, I get excited about that part of the tech for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. There are the positives, right? And the things you're excited about. But with everything good, there's always negatives. There's always pitfalls. I don't know. What do you see as some pitfalls?
I see mostly pitfalls it's a young technology as far as, integration. I equate it to, OCR. When OCR came out, everyone had the expectation that it was just basically going to retype up this document and it's going to be formatted, but it's now, editable. That's not what OCR did, right? It gave us like text, and depending on the quality of the image, it gave us junk, sometimes. Right. And it got better over time, and we understood and kind of molded our expectations around that. I think AI is going to have that same life cycle. I think it's going to, I think we should adopt it. I think we should embrace it. I think we should leverage it. I think we should also keep the expectation of where we are at any given time in its evolution, meaning at the beginning, yes, let's leverage it and go, but also we need to be careful to keep our standard review practices in check and not just lean on it so heavily that we get ourselves in a painted in a corner down the road. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges with AI is it's so magical, not leaning on it 100%, and all of a sudden, like I said, at the end of the road, you kind of find yourself in a pinch because there was some hiccup that we just didn't anticipate. I think the other piece with AI is the cost. I'd love to say we could bundle it with our pricing as is, but the overhead to run these large language models and these systems that do give you scalable AI and that, almost real time kind of interaction, which is what you want to use it for. it's just the overhead cost right now it's a lot. And so not every case's budget is going to let it have this access. Our goal has always been to bring these big data technologies to like everyday cases. But with AI, that's going to be a heavy lift just because of the overhead with some of the the ingestion and the setup and getting it going. But I think there are a lot of legal cases out there on folks' desks right now that it will be a great fit for. And I think for forensic side, by the way, I've been talking heavily about the review side, law firm side. I think the forensic side is in the same breath. I mean, when they're filtering and they're collecting, to have an AI summarization of what happened and what this data is that they can pass on to their client, to have AI suggestions that are saying, hey, I know you collected, I'm going to make this really high level, but I know you collected John Smith. You should collect Jonathan Smith, Johnny Smith, right? Now, we in the industry as experts, and especially the forensic guys, they know already kind of how to do that stuff, right? They know the pitfalls. AI is a tool that helps them automate some of that stuff and helps them scale, if you will, for speed. It's not going to replace anybody, but it's definitely going to be a tool that's going to be in their toolbox that they can help get through things faster, be more efficient, more cost effective. And also, I think it'll surprise them a bit and be like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. That's a pattern I wouldn't have recognized out of the gate, but maybe there is this that we need to explore more with the client and at least provide that information back to them. And that just brings a weight of service that I think forensic teams are always looking for to keep engaged with their clients. So I know I'm talking heavy on the review and law firm side, but on the forensic side, it's huge.
Yeah. Well, you talked cost, some of the pitfalls, the negatives. Who benefits most? And then as time goes on, you see more and more people being able to, as price comes down, I'm spitballing, I'm kind of thinking out loud. Technology comes in heavy and then gets more efficient and cheaper over time. Who benefits from that?
Well, I mean, I think who benefits from that are going to be the smaller data size sets, right? I mean, that's an easy one to tee up. Meaning I have 50 gigs of data, whereas before I'd be priced out being able to use some of these technologies. Now I can leverage it on a half a gig, 1 gig, 10 gigs, 50 gigs. It's built in, and you nailed it. I've seen, and given the industry that we specifically focus on, which is like eDiscovery processing and ingest and review and production. I mean, we've all seen that be commoditized to a certain level, right? It came out proprietary technology, but all technology gets commoditized at some point. And AI will get there. Now we're at the beginning of this, and it's fun. It's going to be a while, but it'll get there faster than the last technology, and that's what time has proven. Time, again and again and again. It's almost like the LP took X number of decades to be, accepted, and then the 8-track took, years, and then the cassette tape took X, Y, and Z, and then the CD took like a year, and then MP3 took like a month. We're going to see that same adoption level as new technologies come out, and AI's in there. AI's.
Good analogy. I'm a music guy too, so really good analogy.
The irony is LPs are coming back. I mean, if you go to
they are. We're back to the crackling noise and the turntable, right? Aren't we?
Well, the good news is you can get a really good, decent quality record player for good price. Like back in the day, if you wanted that quality, you had to spend thousands. Now, for a couple $100, you can get top-notch, LP player that has Bluetooth, so you can play your, Spotify on and everything else.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about. I'm going to give you an opportunity to talk about IIO, right? Indexed IO. Who's the ideal user? Why indexed IO? Tell yourself.
Absolutely. We have kind of two user groups. One is going to be kind of medium to small law firms. Honestly, it's a DIY program. You can sign up, drag and drop data. It's going to process it. They can review it, search it, produce it, redact it, run reports, priv logs, all that stuff. And, it's on demand for them, no overhead. It's easy to learn, free training, free support, all that fun stuff. So we really do an ideal profile would be kind of that medium to small law firm. Now, that doesn't mean we don't work with large law firms. We do. We work with a ton of them. They just tend to have a more sophisticated team that can kind of pick these things up and run with it. And, it's even an easier turnaround. The other profile I would say are you mentioned earlier, how we partner up. We partner up with other support providers or forensic companies. We help them extend their relationship with their clients, meaning like, hey, here's a client that I do a ton of phone collections for. I give them the data and then they call me when they have another phone. We kind of help bridge that gap to say, well, here's a place you could put that phone data and help them review it, help them continue to search it and provide other, supportive services that maybe are out of your reach right now. So those are kind of the two main profiles that we've seen. Again, heavy focused on that medium to small firm, just because it's such an easy DIY platform. Truth be told, Ray, one of the paradigm shifts that we have to work with folks is when they see it, they immediately think it's like a light version because it's so easy. I mean, it's easy to use and it's like a not intimidating interface. And they immediately kind of think, well, I'm missing something because there's not all these buttons and configurations and all this technical stuff I got to set up and configure. No, it's elegant. It works. And, you're like you said, we have a, what 26 terabyte project in there. We also have cases that are 10 meg,
Right.
a half a gig.
Right.
So, I mean, this thing goes up and down and it works well. We love the smaller firms. I don't think there's a lot of resources out there for those firms. They kind of get the industry kind of shadows them a bit. We love working with them. We provide them support. We provide them the platform. And if it gets something too big for, we work with companies like Course and say, hey, here's a team that can help you put together a review management group that can get you through this review because your firm, it's going to need more than like the 10 folks at your firm. We found that relationship to be great. It's been wonderful. So
and partnering up, we kind of try to help David slay Goliath, right?
Exactly.
That's part
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, I mean, the boutique firms that are out there traditionally had to turn away large projects, large cases, because they didn't have the resources to manage that data and to, they weren't DBAs. Platforms like Index.io are giving them the ability to get through that data without focusing on it. Now they can review it and search it and get their case put together rather than I'm an expert in PST files or zip files. They don't have to worry about that stuff.
Right.
It really is a David Goliath situation. We kind of brought everyone up to the same level.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, man. Well, I'm gonna kind of end on that. David slaying Goliath is a good ending point, I think. So
it's great.
Again, everybody, I'm Ray Beken with Chorus Consulting, Director of Business Development, and Brian, why don't you kind of tell a little bit about how to get in touch with you before we sign off?
We'll point over here with let me scooch right there, right? Index.io, www.index.io. It is a .io, so it's not .com. That always gets people a little confused, but reach out to us. We'd love to give you a demo. There's lots of videos too. You can kind of self-check if you want to just check us out. Again, www.indexed.io.
All right. Awesome, man. Great to have you. Look forward to seeing you again.
Appreciate it, Ray.
All right, bye.
Bye.
You've been tuning into Voices of Tech and Litigation with your host, Ray Beken. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our website, chorusconsulting.net. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.